like protesters out front.
Or ex-wives.
We're going to start keeping score how many times you're able to work that into an episode. I'm going to have to send somebody that's bored to go count.
Hopefully she doesn't listen.
Yeah, there's one little stick figure. There's no way she listens.
I don't know. She's in healthcare.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT. Joining me as always is Donna Grindle of the infamous Card.
Infamous. Notorious.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the notorious KARDOE. So anyway, what's up with yourself?
Hey, I'm feeling pretty good, kind of frisky, ready to roll.
Must be a tequila night.
It might be. Or
is it the Bourbon Club
meeting?
In the
afternoon. Yeah. No, it's not Bourbon Club night, or I wouldn't be talking to you at this time.
All right, good deal. So, what kind of engagements do you have coming up?
Well, we've been talking about the Format Approved Healthcare Cybersecurity Officer Live Webinar Workshop. When they have these long titles, I just struggle. If you're interested in that one, go to the Format Approved site. We, of course, have a link on the show notes for this episode that you can go to their site and sign up September 12th, 13th, 19th, and 20th. And if you are interested, you can get a 20% discount if you use Grindle20 as your coupon code. You're welcome.
I did try to get Grindle50. It didn't work.
October 18th, I'll be speaking at the Georgia Pediatric Practice Administrators Conference here in Atlanta. Looking forward to talking to those guys again. I love pediatrics, folks. I mean, you just are a special breed for certain things, and pediatrics is one of them. Mm-hmm. So we're looking forward to that. But then, October 24th and 25th.
The HIPAA Boot Camp.
Boot Camp.
Yeah, love the boot camp.
Camp. Yes, and so last week we did a pretty deep dive discussion on what all happens in the boot camp so that you can hear it's not your mama's boot camp.
Okay, I'll go with that.
But it is a very detailed 2 jam-packed days of training and consulting, one-on-one time, and deep down discussions where we're like, what? Wait, what? Mm-hmm. So we do all as a group delve into a lot of great discussions. So if you're interested, you can go to thehipabootcamp.com and there's all kinds of information there, as well as the recording where it takes you into the deep dive that David will be putting out there between now and when this podcast goes live.
Right. I have it on my list.
Finally got to give him something to do.
I know. I have it on my list. So anyway, before we get into the episode, I want to remind everybody, if you like today's episode, share it out. If you don't like it, then don't tell anybody. Just keep it to yourself. Anyway, share it out on social media. Help us spread the word to get HIPAA out there.
Hey, you know what else we need? We need reviews. We need reviews. Right. We haven't paid attention to reviews, but it's been a long time since we had a review on iTunes. I think we got one on Stitcher. And, so it would be nice. You can review the app and say it's awesome. Mm-hmm. On Google Play or the App Store. You can review us on the podcasting apps, all kinds of places. But, we don't ask for much, people. We don't ask for much.
There you go. So call out. Let's see how many we can get. Come on, listeners. Come on, go to iTunes, Stitcher. You can go to facebook.com/helpmewithhipaa. Come on, give us some reviews. Come on, share the love.
Yeah. Unless, as David says, unless it's not 5 stars.
Yeah, if you don't give us 5 stars and just keep going. No, I'm just kidding.
We have never had less than a 5-star review.
Yeah. Be honest with your reviews, unless it's not going to be 5 stars in that case. Just lie.
Never mind, David. Let's move along.
All right. So This podcast came out of several things, but we didn't really mention this at the HIPAA boot camp, but this was kind of part of one of the sessions where we were going over a lot of things about, these are some things you should be looking at when you do your security risk analysis. And we went through this whole long laundry list of things and flipping slides so much that people started having like nervous twitches.
Well, you create that. That's what it is.
Yeah. But this one wasn't on the slide. Probably will be on the next one. So we want to cover it today, which is, are hacktivists on your SRA?
Mm-hmm. Because it's in our list of 120, I guess, that we have. We have hacktivists, but a lot of times we have to explain to people what that is and why you should have it on your SRA. And there was some articles in the news that made it a perfect time to bring that up and explain why, if you haven't ever thought about it, you really should think about it. The biggest reason is you never know when someone could just decide to attack you because of this. So, well, first, what's a hacktivist, David?
That is a person who is similar to an activist. They have a pursuit or something they don't like or trying to make a point of something, and they do that through means of electronic activity. Say it that way. Yeah. So they use hacking. They use other things to disrupt the ability for the organization to do business online or mess up their website. Those types of things.
Yeah, it's like the protesters, except they're protesting against you instead of right out your front door. They're doing it on your network and attacking your network. And because, hey, we live in the digital age. So
it's a lot easier. I don't have to get out of the house. I can just do it from the house.
Yeah. And generally now theirs is about an agenda and getting attention for their cause, but not in a way, some people are like, isn't that cyber terrorism? Terrorism, I'm trying to scare you into paying attention to me. This is more about, I'm trying to create enough problems for you that everybody else will pay attention.
Right.
Like protesters out front.
Or ex-wives.
We're going to start keeping score how many times you're able to work that into an episode. I'm going to have to send somebody that's bored to go count.
Hopefully she doesn't listen.
One.
Yeah,
there's one little stick figure. There's no way she listens.
I don't know if she's in healthcare.
Yeah, she sees your name. She moves along.
I'm sure she does.
So anyway, these hacktivists will see something that gets them fired up, and for whatever reason, they'll act upon it using digital attacks instead of some of the other things. So their protesting is to make your network inaccessible instead of your front door.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed you said fired up.
Huh?
I'm pretty impressed you said fired up. I just knew you'd be, down Georgia, fired up.
Well, so anyway, this week there was a conviction of a hacktivist that goes back to a story from 2014, the Boston Children's Hospital. And that article kind of prompted this discussion. And it's actually going to be blended into another episode because we got another one coming up. But here's the story, is that they got on the radar of the hacktivist, when the parents of a 14-year-old girl that had some medical issues, we're not going to get into that whole thing, but the doctor said that she needed a certain kind of treatment. The parents disagreed and wanted to remove her from the hospital's care. They wanted to take her out of the hospital. And it got into one of those pushing matches, where the hospital felt strong enough, the personnel there felt strong enough that they actually petitioned the state and got to have the girl declared a ward of the state because her parents were medically abusing her. They were requiring her to be treated for something that the doctors believe was not helping her. It was actually hurting her, and that she should be treated for something else. So the parents did. They were able to prove this to a pretty, people don't lose custody of their children for nothing, but they were able to prove this enough, and the state then put the child in care with the doctors who wanted to care for the child. So we don't know what all happened with the kid. We just know at this point, Anonymous picks up the story.
So Anonymous is a hacking group.
Yes, they're a hacktivist group. They're really probably the ones most well known. That Guy Fawkes mask that you always see. How do you describe that mask?
Yeah, the V for Vendetta mask.
Yeah, there you go. It's
yeah,
the same kind of thing. But anyway,
awesome movie. Love that movie. That was one of the best one-liners ever.
What?
This, when he was in the bedroom scene and the lady's in there, she's asleep, and he walks in and she wakes up and she says, "Are you here to kill me?" And he says, "I killed you 10 minutes ago." And then he shows a hypodermic needle. It's like freaking awesome.
Okay. And so we've had that little segue. So now, whenever you see that funky mask,
so everybody's going to watch the movie this week.
I know. You'll see the funky mask. You think about Hacktivist and a hypodermic needle. So David's killing you slowly. But so they are the ones. So you always see that, and everybody kind of thinks that's hackers, but really and truly, it's a specific group, and there are a lot of them that are out there. But this is the most famous one and quite prolific at one time back then, especially. So they picked up the story and they made a statement and said, "We're not happy about this, and the girls' rights have been violated, so we're going to take action." And then apparently a guy in Massachusetts, so we're not talking, Finlandia or somewhere. I don't know where that came from. But anyway, the hacker there in Massachusetts takes over the job. And in April of 2014, there's a lot of other stuff that took place, but the important part for us is that Boston Children's Hospital was hit with what we say is a DDoS attack. So he had 40,000 malware-infected network routers. Mm-hmm. So he had infected all these routers, and we always tell you about how important it is for the smallest things can become part of a problem. So these were randomly gathered, we'll call it. He found 40,000 routers that he could hack into and make them be his army. And all of those were pointed at the internet resources of Boston Children's Hospital. It was an intense attack. And it brought down the entire, first it brought down like the internet connection, and they were sending all these phishing emails trying to get employees to do stuff. So they had to stop using email, and the website went down. And then it was so bad, it cluttered up that entire network access that it started affecting all of the attached networks like Harvard University and all of their hospitals. So they started losing internet access. And this went on for almost a week. Mm-hmm. And according to the hospital, some medical patients and personnel could not use their online accounts to check appointments, test results, look at all that, case information. There was also a mention that doctors could enter the prescription, print the prescription, but they couldn't transmit a prescription. So you're back to a little bit of old school about getting the paper and taking it to the pharmacy. Or sending it down to the lab in the hospital or the pharmacy in the hospital. So overall, according to the hospital, they spent over $300,000 dealing with and mitigating the damage to this from this attack. And it had to have been huge because one of the articles said there were 65,000 IP addresses involved.
Wow.
That were down. I mean, and so that means endpoints. That's 65,000 devices trying to talk to each other in the internet that couldn't.
So here's some useless information for you.
Okay.
On the black market, do you know how much it costs to buy a week-long DDoS attack?
I do not. How much does it cost, David?
How much would you think? How much is it willing?
Seriously, are we doing this?
So anyway, according to some research, get this now, to buy a week-long DDoS attack, which is what we're basically talking about here, $150.
How much?
$150.
Not 150,000, so $150.
$150 on the black market can buy a week-long DDoS attack.
Okay, so there we go, right then and there. So $150. So somebody could get angry with you, and for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. They could get angry with you. And whether you call it hacktivism or cyber terrorism, it's still the same thing. They could, for $150, spend a week making your life miserable and potentially shutting down your business and causing you problems. So you think about, all the phone systems now go through the internet, right? The VoIP phones.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, whether you use a on-premise EHR or not, you're using the internet somehow. And if your network is flooded with these requests to the point that nothing operates because, it went insane for these folks. So $150 is all it takes for somebody that gets mad at you to make your life miserable for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And, people spend a lot of time and money when they get mad. So, and this is one particular case where they were able to track down the individual and they had him arrested, and now the individual is, convicted, and we still have to wait to November to see what happens, but hundreds of thousands in restitution. But the question would be, does he have any money? And 15 years in jail he could get. So a lot of this stuff it'll depend, but the bottom line is over $300,000 is what they're saying, but can you actually quantify what that cost to have people unable to function at the hospital for a week? Okay, well, imagine what it'll cost in a small practice. It still costs a lot of money.
Right.
So that's why it needs to be on your SRA. Number one, it prevents you from running your business, which in turn prevents you from treating your patients. It could impact your ability to have your medical records available. And imagine if they paid $300.
Yeah.
So, and this is not like a single case. There are other cases out there. This is just the one that rolled up here. There's a case in Italy where they got mad at pharmaceuticals, and so they started attacking things to do anything that got their attention. There, they were attacking because they were fighting big pharma or whatever. I don't remember the story, but you've got that kind of hacktivism going on. And then, of course, you really should have activists going on. Mm-hmm. And no matter how non-political your practice of medicine may be, you never know when what you do could trigger something. And, that case, did the doctors think, well, I'm trying to do the right thing for the patient? Well, based on all we know, that's what most medical people do. I mean, that's my experience. They want to care for the patient. And they thought this was the right thing to do. And they were able to convince enough people at the hospital that it was the right thing to do. And then the lawyers got involved, and then they were able to convince them. So they were really committed to making this happen. It never occurred to them that it would bring the hospital, along with all the other hospitals connected to them, to their knees. So it is something. While we don't say you should make it a high-risk item, necessarily the likelihood of it happening is not absolutely out of the question. And I think a lot of people either don't even consider it or don't even evaluate it. So to me, likelihood times impact equals risk. So the likelihood of it happening, I mean, if you're in an area of practice that could create controversy more than others, so children, hello, controversy, always going to be controversy. And depending on what other things, your practice is involved in, or you're in, infectious disease and those kind of things, you never know when you're going to be in the news. So yours would be higher than, say, just internal med, maybe. Mm-hmm. But the impact could be massive. It could be almost catastrophic, that it wouldn't destroy your business, but it would certainly be critical. And that's the way that it should be represented on your SRA, because I'm sure your SRA says, for this item, this is the likelihood and the impact, and therefore this is what my risk is, and here's what I plan on doing about that risk, and how well am I doing. That's what your SRA shows, I'm certain. Isn't that right, David?
Absolutely. It should.
No, it's a gap analysis. So, but the other thing is that you also have to watch out for activism in politics. That there's another article that came up this week that between these two articles and the hospital not being able to communicate because they had to shut down emails, so they couldn't tell their employees how to handle what was happening. Then now here's another thing where there was a planned outage. They knew there was going to be a problem, so they come up with a plan. Seems to me, I don't know, David, from what we know, it seems like a solid plan.
Yeah.
I can't find anything wrong with the evidence that's been presented in the news. Anyway.
And they're always correct and truthful.
Assuming that the quote of the CISO is correct, and, a lot of times those don't get changed because they don't know for sure what they're saying.
I don't know what he said. Just quote it.
Yeah, just quote it exactly because I don't know whether it's good for us or bad. So anyway, according to the CISO, their plan was a solid one. But no, for some reason, the Oklahoma governor and a bunch of legislators, I'm sure there's a political reason. Who knows what it is? But they're now claiming that this solution violated HIPAA. I'm sure they're all experts at it.
Yeah.
And
most people are.
I can't figure out how it possibly violated HIPAA, but now they're all in an uproar. And what was the headline? They're in a row. And some British person's going to have to row. How do they say that in Britain? Anyway, they're in an argument. They pitching a fit, which is the way we say it in the South.
Yeah.
They got their panties in a wad over their opinion that there's been a HIPAA violation. So now that one ties into this whole activism and how you could get sucked into one of these things for the simplest reasons. And it is a time suck and a resource suck when it happens. So you need to be aware that this could happen to you, and you will never dream of it happening. When it happens, it'll be total surprise.
Yeah.
Like if you got hit with ransomware, you'd be angry, but would you be shocked?
No, because the likelihood is so high.
Yeah, I know. It's so prolific. But if this happens, you're shocked, you're angry, and if you don't have a plan, you're confused.
And apparently, if you do have a plan, you can be confused.
Even if you do have a plan, afterwards, someone else may decide that it's a bad thing for you. But, children's had that issue because of some, them doing what they felt was the right thing, treating the patients, all these things. Now we have in Oklahoma, the VA they were doing the right thing. They had a plan. They knew this was going to happen. They took that approach. Now here they are in the news, and you can't possibly understand what it's like to deal with that constant, you've got to have a phone call. I mean, I even get tired of having to be on all those phone calls when something like that's going on. Mm-hmm. And all I have to do is listen and give my opinion. And, I'm just there for you, patting you on the back. So it is an absolute necessity that you at least consider this to be a potential problem for you.
Right.
At least that's in our opinion.
And that's all that matters.
So we're actually going to do another episode that deals with the other half of this because we couldn't get into both of them. But the other half of this of you're in a crisis and you're trying to communicate and things aren't working out. If you have one plan for communicating, probably not going to work out for you at some point. So it clearly is here.
Is this for HIPAA or marriage counseling? What are we talking about?
Bump. And
be here all night, guys.
Try the meatloaf. I'll be here till Wednesday. So. But anyway, there's at least some argument that if you, in your incident response plan, there would be other reasons for you to worry about these things. And the DDoS, you want to try to give a shot at explaining that in normal language?
Yes. So
go for it.
A DDoS.
I couldn't work it out.
DDoS or DDoS is a distributed denial of service attack, which is basically an attempt to make an online service unavailable by overwhelming it with a bunch of traffic and from multiple sources. You talked about having the routers, tons of routers that are flooding, the networks and all that. So that's basically it in a nutshell. So you take a distribution of things, the routers, and then you cause all of those things to flood an online service or a network, and it takes it down.
Hey, I've got an analogy. I'm ready. I got one.
Go ahead.
You're saying it. You use the word flood, and it's good for me. So you go to the fair or Dave & Buster's or one of those places, and they always have those games where you sit on the stool and you shoot the water gun to make your little thing run, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine that everybody has no control over their little gun and suddenly it's aimed just at your horse. Well, in this case, it would be awesome because your horse would be the only one running away. But if you don't want your horse to run away, or your little rabbit or whatever the game is, let's say you would like to keep the horse in the stable.
Oh, Lord, I could go somewhere with that one.
You don't want all the guns pointed at your horse.
You would not.
No, you would not.
Okay.
So, there you go. There you go. That's it. They're all pointed in. That is a distributed denial of service attack, also known as DDoS.
I cannot add any more to that. that we can publish.
I know, really. Now I want to do a video of that, Yeah. I'm into making all these explainer videos that use that kind of random stuff to explain technical stuff. That's what we need to just start a whole business that does that.
So I did have a client who actually did something similar to this to themselves before, where they,
what?
Yeah. So if you don't know, if you take a huge, 10 gig file and you decide that you're going to put it in your folder that's also backing up to Dropbox.
Oh, no.
It will take all of your internet upload speed, which in essence takes down your broadband. So you basically have created your own denial of service attack on yourself. So, you can do it.
Yeah, nothing else can happen because I have created my own problem. And then stopping it is not easy.
No, because most people don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and even trying to move that 10 gig out of there, and Dropbox keeps trying to go, but I have to finish.
Yeah. Terrible.
Yeah. Good for them.
Anyway, so now everybody learned today about DDoS attacks and horses and guns and your bridges in the
V
water.
for Vendetta.
Killing people. I mean, $150 DDoS on the black market.
Kill people in 10 minutes.
This has been an educational episode.
Yes, surely you learned something.
I know that you had to get something out of that.
Yes.
So, all right, folks, that's our show for today. Probably a little bit shorter than normal. So that means you have more time to listen next time. Remember to rate us. Okay, rate, R-A-T-E. Rate us
Please,
on the social media platforms. Come on now. We need some more 5 stars. So, Donna gets all upset, cries, starts taking all kind of medications, usually not over the counter or prescription, if you know what I mean. So
brown water.
All right. So that's our show for today, folks. Remember, for Donna and myself, HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.